I had this dream where I was interviewing the medical doctor that worked at 4 state prisons overseeing the medical wards. And I was interviewing this medical doctor, and he was exposing how for a decade they were shipping blood out of people that had HIV and hepatitis to be added to factor 8 for hemophiliacs, and that the Clintons were being apprised of this and knew it was giving everybody HIV and hepatitis, and that all the other prisons in the country had either banned giving blood or they were screening it, and the Clintons were certifying every ounce of blood as safe, and instead of testing each packet of blood that costs hundreds of dollars to do, they just certified it all and sent a death sentence on to millions of hemophiliacs and others that took drugs like factor 8 by Bayer. Now, you know what was funny about the dream? My eyes popped open at 3:02 a.m. And I went, that's not a dream. I interviewed that doctor. He was firebombed 48 hours later.
InfoWars. Tomorrow's news today.
I was on international Turkish television this morning, one of the biggest shows in Turkey, and they were reading a laundry list of questions that I get in the exact order on any national or international show, all written by the Democrats, written by the former head of Hillary's campaign for PR, her PR head, who admittedly was in the national news last week as Facebook's head PR person for my banning. That's right. Hillary's former head of PR works at Facebook now and runs the banning operation. So I'm on Turkish television. I may even air some of this in the third hour. And they're just going through this laundry list. And one of the things is, well, you say Hillary Clinton's a murderer. What's your proof? And I'm sure they're going to cut all that out. And I'm like, are you kidding? She said, we came to Libya. We saw he died. They set Gaddafi up. The famous Clinton death list. You've got, when she was co-president with Clinton, she admitted she was co-president, Madeleine Albright saying they killed 500,000 children with sanctions that were like 7 times worse than what George Herbert Walker Bush put on them. I mean, just crippling. They cut food off for 8 years to a desert country that imported 90% of its food. No antibiotics for little kids. I mean, just evil crap. And boy, that host shut up real quick. You know he's going to cut it out. Doesn't matter. We recorded it ourselves. We're going to air it. That's how this works. I even told them, but they're so arrogant they weren't listening. So the strangest thing about this last night, I had a dream about this last night. I woke up at 3 a.m. and couldn't go back to sleep. I had this dream. I had this dream where I was interviewing the medical doctor that worked at 4 state prisons overseeing the medical wards. And I was interviewing this medical doctor, and he was exposing how for a decade they were shipping blood out of people that had HIV and hepatitis to be added to factor 8 for hemophiliacs, and that the Clintons were being apprised of this and knew it was giving everybody HIV and hepatitis, and that all the other prisons in the country had either banned giving blood or they were screening it, and the Clintons were certifying every ounce of blood as safe, and instead of testing each packet of blood that costs hundreds of dollars to do, they just certified it all and sent a death sentence on to millions of hemophiliacs and others that took drugs like factor 8 by Bayer. Now, you know what was funny about the dream? My eyes popped open at 3:02 a.m. And I went, that's not a dream. I interviewed that doctor. He was firebombed 48 hours later. And that's how much, I'm not bragging, but that's how many wars I've been in, folks. Sometimes I'll be driving along and like be thinking about something. I go, that's incredible. That's wild. Oh, wait, that really happened. I did that. We did that. So I had this doctor on when he was in a few local papers and some national papers, and it had been confirmed. He got firebombed 2 days later, and in Little Rock, And the Hemophiliac Society in Canada got robbed and everything stolen because they were involved in the lawsuit against the Clintons. Now later, I'm going to show you New York Times, Washington Post, 4 years later, 3 years later, reporting everything I said and everything I did with those guests. But we had to hit the barbed wire first. I had no idea that I was the first big radio interview this guy had done that got any traction. And if I told you the rest of the story, it sounds like a James Bond movie, so I'm not going to get into it. But I didn't know why folks were coming after me at that point, or why I got called in and they said, we don't care if you have the #1 ratings here in Austin. Yeah, that's him. I interviewed him. Edward Him, yeah, a bunch of those guys. Anyways, I interviewed the Canadians, the guy in Arkansas, and we got to get them back on. And they wouldn't come back on after they were on the show because they got death threatened, they got attacked, they got firebombed. I mean, it was bad. And this is like 1997 or so. So 3-4 years later, it comes out in the New York Times, it comes out in the Washington Post that the Clintons knew that the blood in the prison, they were letting people give blood once a week, supposed to be once a month. And they were selling the inmates cocaine that the Clintons were shipping into MENA, and then they were doing all this, and all of it came out. So we broke all this before World Net Daily. They were the next after us, everybody else. And that's why we're hated. And Hillary and Bill Clinton were paid more than $10 million over a decade as the governor to certify blood to be sold to Bayer out of Canada. They'd ship the blood to Canada. They'd mix all the blood together, scoop the platelets out, and sell it as factor VIII clotting agent, knowing that everyone that took it got hepatitis A, B, C, and HIV. Now, if you're a radio listener, you're going, this is wild. I'm showing TV viewers The Guardian, the Associated Press, the Washington Post. But I want it to sink in before I come back and play these clips and go to Mike Adams, who's joining us on a similar issue, to understand. Hillary and Bill were paid $10 million by this Canadian company that we know of to say all the blood in Arkansas was certified and to not do the hundreds of millions of dollars of testing they would have done on hundreds of millions of dosages of blood. CBS News. Bayer admits it paid millions to HIV-infected cases, just not in English. Now, it came out in the Bayer documents. We're going to play some of these newscasts when we come back. Back when the news still did its job 10 years ago, that the executives in Australia, Canada, and in France, they never got the documents in the U.S. because by then Clinton was president, he blocked it. The executives, these are like presidents, are saying, screw these people. There's too many hemophiliacs anyways. Because their own executives are like, you know, we got lied to by the Clintons and we have given millions HIV and hepatitis. And they said, screw them, there's too many of them anyways. This is in the documents. Screw your hemophiliac kid that you love and who's 6 years old and gets cut and doesn't stop bleeding. You love that girl, you love that boy. And these CEOs are sitting around going, you know, hemophiliacs are defective. F them. You know what? F you. F you. You want to kill babies after they're born? You want to decide they don't exist? What if somebody, I'm not calling for this, gets you around your neck and squeezes your eyeballs out and says, I just aborted some 70-year-old executive because it was a post-birth abortion? Then it'd be all over the news, a murder. How about we got some value? How about our kids got some value? We're going to come back and play all this. Stay with us. I'm Alex Jones. Hillary Clinton is a premeditated murderer. You know, I'm real. I'm not filtering anything. I'm giving you the best truth I can from my research. And that's a true story. I told, because last week, Hillary went all over the country giving speeches like she's on the campaign trail. New Hampshire, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania. and some of the places she lost. And she's still planning to run. I mean, I told you that, and now it's even admitted. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's currently what she's planning. And I wake up from a dream last night, where Hillary knowingly knows there's HIV and hepatitis in the blood, and I'm interviewing the doctor, and they get firebombed, and I'm in this dream. I'm going, as you get older, you learn to control your dreams. I'm like, God, this is just crazy. What a weird-ass dream. And I wake up, and I go to the kitchen, I get a glass of water, and I go, oh, my God, that's all real. That's my subconscious going, Alex, Hillary and the blood scandal is everything. It's where they got caught. They were president by then. They were able to protect it. And that's it. And then I did research on it to remember all of it, and it was worse than I thought. It wasn't 1 million people. They estimate 8 million people got HIV or hepatitis or both, and that 3 million have died. 3 million people knowingly putting prison blood with people with hepatitis and HIV, mainly to children all over the world. Why the hell would you do that? Why the hell would Hillary out of college get her first job representing rich pedophiles? Because that's how you go to the top of this system. And, you tell the average person, Hillary and Bill made more than $10 million off selling people tainted blood. And it just doesn't sound real, does it? Because you wouldn't do that. You feel like, when you even think about that, imagine you were going to do that. You feel like you're attacking yourself, don't you? Because you're connected to God and everybody. You're a real collectivist. You're an individual that does their own will, but collectively, you wouldn't want to hurt people. The collectivists say they're collectivists because they're not, folks. They're cut off. They think that's winning. They think that gets them brownie points with their God, just like killing already born babies. You see, it's always push the envelope. So here's a boil down from what I covered on Friday, where Hillary says, I've never killed anybody. They make this up. And she gets into InfoWars. Now we need to be banned. I won't play all of it. And then we're going to play and show you the mainstream news articles admitting that they did this years after we broke it. And I want to explain. I'm not bragging about that. I had the medical doctor on that was the head guy at 4 state prisons. And he started asking questions for years. And he found out they were falsifying the certifications the blood had been tested, because that's a lot of money to test it. And then he found out, wait, you're taking it from HIV positive, and you're doing it? They tried to pay him off. They got firebombed. I had things happen to me. But after it happened a few times, people stopped doing it because things didn't go the way people thought they'd go. So, I do what I have to do. And I'm not backing down. And if you attack me, you're going to get attacked right back. And then it's up to the system out there at Fort Hood or wherever to figure out what happened to you. But the American people aren't putting up with this crap anymore. There's still red-blooded Americans left. So here's Greg's little boil down of this, and I'll get to even MSNBC before they sold out admitting all this. Here it is. Madeleine Albright, Secretary of State, when Hillary was co-president with Bill, and she also worked at the State Department, and Madeleine Albright went on national television on NBC and on 60 Minutes, CBS. There's 2 different clips of this. And said 500,000 dead Iraqi children is a good price to pay. Because if you thought George Herbert Walker Bush put sanctions on Iraq, in the 8 years of the Clintons, they put sanctions on them that killed over 2 million people. Because that's a desert country, 95% of it. They were shipping in their fertilizer, their medicine, everything. So she gets asked about 500,000 kids, and Hillary Clinton, mentor, was working for Hillary at the time. Madeleine Albright says it's a good price to pay. that Hillary goes in front of this crowd of fawning sycophants and wannabe elitist and makes a joke about all this. It's just incredible. Hillary Clinton, you are a murderer. You are a criminal. You've bragged about it. You know it. You're a ruthless person. These are just times you bragged about killing, or your associates bragged about your policies that killed millions. So here it is.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
So that's 1996, May 12th. That's Hillary Clinton's buddy and her policies that did this. But then she's Secretary of State many years later, and they go in and use Al-Qaeda and ISIS to take over a country, put women back into sex slavery, kill black Libyans, because the Islamicists are very anti-black. And then Hillary brags about she saw, Gaddafi died. Here it is.
I mean, that is the land of unconfirmed.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
Did it have anything to do with your visit?
No, I'm sure it did.
She says she lost the election because of yours truly, internet conspiracies. And she said that when people went to knock on doors for her, they'd say, I can't vote for you, you're a murderer.
Clinton says she usually never paid attention to her critics, but what she calls the conspiracy fetishizing of the 2016 campaign was different. She says she heard just how different it was from lifelong friends who were out knocking on people's doors.
They'd say they were there asking that the person vote for me, and the person might say something like, oh, I couldn't do that, she's a murderer. And, you know, I mean, friends from grade school saying, no, she's not. Oh, yeah, I saw it on the internet. Well, wouldn't you think I'd been, as they used to say, locked up by now if that were the case?
Yeah, you will get locked up in hell one way or another. So let's go back for TV viewers, radio listeners, the fawning students worshiping her. Hey, guys, this is the real world. Millions of children got HIV and hepatitis because of this. So do you understand why you're all playing cutesy and she's the good lady and all this, that she's literally famous around the world for being evil and ruthless? She got thrown off the Watergate committee for lying about Nixon. I mean, she's a crook of crooks. I mean, here, kids, here's Counterpunch, liberal site, Arkansas bloodsuckers, the Clintons prisoners in blood trade. You know, back when liberals told the truth. Clinton's Arkansas blood scandal. Suit says Canada imported tainted blood from U.S. inmates. New York Times, Clinton's involved. Arkansas prison blood scandal. Encyclopedia of Arkansas. Bayer admits it paid millions to HIV-infected cases to cover it up. There you go. Let's go out with just a few minutes. You just type into YouTube. It's still up there. They'll take it down. Bayer blood scandal. This is what you've signed on to. This is, she knows it's got HIV. She gets money for it and ships it out to kill people. Here it is.
Show. We appreciate you being on tonight.
Thanks for the invitation, Joe.
Okay, let's talk about the rat of the week. Why is Bayer Corporation the rat of the week?
Internal documents show that after this company positively, absolutely knew that they had a medication that was infected with the AIDS virus, they took the product off the market in the U.S. and then they dumped it in France, Europe, Asia, and Latin America. The medicine's called Factor 8. It was an injection medicine that was used for hemophiliacs, mostly children. Children had been born with an incurable disease.
Hold on, Mike. So hold on. So you're telling me that Bayer...
All right, let's stop there. The live show is continuing. When I post this to InfoWars, we'll put the full report up. This is who they are. Knowingly, over a decade, 3 million dead. Hillary is a murderer. I rest my case.
Okay, let's talk about the rat of the week. Why is Bayer Corporation the rat of the week?
Internal documents show that after this company positively, absolutely knew that they had a medication that was infected with the AIDS virus, they took the product off the market in the U.S. and then they dumped it in France, Europe, Asia, and Latin America. The medicine's called Factor 8. It was an injection medicine that was used for hemophiliacs, mostly children. Children had been born with an incurable disease.
Hold on, Mike. So hold on. So you're telling me that Bayer knew that this drug was infected infected with the AIDS virus. They yanked it from the market in America, and then they dumped it in markets overseas.
They had to figure out a way, Joe, to make a profit on a product that they could not sell in America. So they made a huge profit. They dropped the product in Japan, Spain, and France. By the way, Joe, government officials in France that allowed that to happen actually had to go to prison for it. In America, not one corporate executive for this company has been indicted or even criminally investigated by our Justice Department.
Why not? What, you're telling me that these people that dumped this AIDS-tainted blood in foreign countries, who killed children, have not been taken to task in the United States?
It's worse than that. The U.S. government allowed it to happen. The FDA allowed this to happen. And now the government is completely looking the other way. Thousands of innocent hemophiliacs have died from the AIDS virus. And not only they're dying, their family members are dying because they're becoming infected with the disease. This company knew absolutely that they had a problem with the product. They knew that it was infected with AIDS. They dumped it because they wanted to turn this disaster into a profit.
Mike, I want to read to you what Bayer told the New York Times about this scandal. They said Bayer behaved responsibly, ethically, and humanely. Decisions made nearly 2 decades ago were based on the best scientific information of the time and were consistent with the regulations in place. That sounds like a lot of legal mumbo-jumbo. Now, you say you have internal documents that show that they knew that this drug they were dumping was tainted with the AIDS drug? Or the AIDS virus?
The documents show that there was no question that this company absolutely understood the risk, that they knew that it was contaminated. It wasn't a possibility. They knew it was contaminated. Americans were dying from the product before it was pulled off the market. The only reason it was pulled off the market is because lawyers found the documents and showed it to the government, and finally the government said you can't sell it here, but then the government allowed them to dump it in Spain, France, and Japan.
That's amazing. That's just amazing.
Well,
I want to read to you what the New York Times said, and this is an investigation that they also did, and they said the federal government was part of the problem while the Food and Drug Administration told the company not to ship the drugs overseas. The man responsible for the drug supply, quote, asked that the issue be quietly solved without alerting the Congress, the medical community, and the public. This is a cover-up, and our Congress is not doing anything. What should Americans do?
Brain Force Plus is a top-tier nootropic. Focus, clarity, energy. But instead of having a 7 times markup, we have 150% markup. Right now, it's massively discounted. And when you get a bottle of it at 25% off, you get a free bottle of what is our total bestseller. It's not very profitable because we give it at such a low price, but it's amazing. And that, of course, is Knockout, the ultimate sleep aid. So we've got a way to energize you, ramp you up in a healthy way during the day, and put you deep into that restful, healthy sleep at night. It's the Brain Force and Knockout combo deal. 25% off Brain Force and a free bottle of Knockout together right now. Get the combo and experience both these great products today. Take advantage of it and fund the InfoWar. InfoWarsLife.com or InfoWarsStore.com. The Brain Force Plus Knockout combo right now. Get your free bottle today at InfoWarsStore.com.